It's that time. Welcome to... Well, this is the... Bob's going to call in from the road here. I don't know why this sounds so roomy. Hang on. There it is. Now we're good. Because I'm going to put the phone over there on speaker so you can hear Bob clearly. All right. So he's going to call any minute. He called about 20 minutes ago to tell me he was going to call in 15 minutes. He called about 15 minutes ago to say he was going to call in about 20 minutes. So this is going to be great. We're going to. I have all kinds of giant beats here from Bob. Up here I have two 18s, which are nice. These are 1960s white label. You can still kind of see the white label here a little bit. Somebody made great pains to... so you can see it. This one is 1,476 grams. And this one is 1,540. Okay? So that's about 60, I don't know, maybe 64 grams different, which isn't that much. I know I've said in videos that sometimes you'd have, I think Bob said he'd, well, he'll call in a minute, we'll ask him, like a 1,390 18-inch giant beat, and then maybe as heavy as a 1,580 maybe. I don't know, we'll see when he calls. Any minute here. So Bob, you're going to hear Paiste Bob, Bob Marzalek. He will answer any of our questions. He will call any minute. We will have George and Bob in person pretty soon. It's very hard to align their schedules. Bob's a busy man. So is George. So, here we are. Little reverb. Hey. Hi. Ooh. What other reverb effects do we have? Hang on. Ba. Who? Ja. Shoo. Bop. Meep. Blah. Giant beat. Giant beat. Giant beat. Hey. One step beyond. So, Bob, any minute you're going to call here, I might have to edit this in. Tick-tock, time goes by. Tick-tock, time goes by. I think I'll call in a minute here. So what I'm going to do, again, I will have to get up and set this phone down over at the microphone when Bob calls. You know what I'm going to have to do, though? I'm going to have to time this because I can only get 20 minutes per chunk of recording on my camera there. So I might have to, edit this in a little bit. So anyway, so Bob gave me hang on. Don't tell Bob I did that. I have 5 original 18-inch giant beats. 2 original 20s. 124. Whatever the hell I did with it. Oh. Here's the 24 he brought, which I'll play after I get off the phone with him, because we got to get all these questions out. Isn't that nice? This is an original giant beat. The first time I ever saw a giant beat, and I didn't know it was a giant beat at the time, was at a music store in St. Charles, Illinois, or Lombard, or Villa Park. Rossi Music. There was a big 24 giant beat right on the rack. All I saw was the Paiste stamp at the 3 o'clock. I didn't even take it off because at the time I wasn't playing 24s. Boy, I wish I'd bought that thing for the $100 it was going for. So Bob will call any minute here. Bob will call any minute. I got a joke for you in the meantime, I'll tell you. Dad brings home from work a robot that he'd been working on. He's a scientist. Brings it home, and it's a robot that will slap you. It can detect lies, and it will give you a slap if you're lying. Robot's sitting there. Son comes in. They're getting ready for dinner, and the father's like, "Son, how was your day?" "Oh, it was good." "What'd you do?" "Oh, I was over at Jerry's house studying." Robot slaps the son. Son's like, "All right, well, we weren't studying. We were just kind of hanging out watching the Blues Brothers." Robot slaps the son. Son says, "I was watching porn at my friend's house." And the mom turns and goes, "Ah, that's certainly your son, honey." And the robot slaps her. Woo! All right, so Bob, any minute if you want to call. God darn it. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Hang on, I'm going to text him and say, call for the love of Christ. Hang on. Come on. I don't got all frickin' day. I just texted him. Call. So let's see what happens. So let's pretend like any minute Bob's going to call. It'd be terrible if Bob got in a fender bender. Well, I guess his phone would still work. So, here we are. Oh, anyway, I might as well. 15-inch hats. Oh, there's 2 pairs of these 15-inch original hats. These are all white label. I might as well play these for a sec. Let me turn on that other mic. Get a little bit of a stereo thing happening here. Holy motherfucking God. We won't do that again. But let's see how it sounds. Just the crash part. Sorry. You know, that's an interesting thing. That's very loud because that mic down there's picking it up, that condenser. Ah, hey. Look, it's Bob calling. Bob, how are you?
Hello.
You are on speaker. Give me 1 second while I prepare you for where you're going to go.
Cool.
Can you dig it?
Oh, most certainly.
Hang on. I have Paiste Bob on the phone from Hong Kong, scouring for giant beats. Bob, how are you?
Oh, great. And yourself?
I'm good. I'm here in the Bonzoleum studios talking to a camera. Thinking I'm cool.
Oh, well, you can't get any cooler than that.
That's right. So listen, so what do I have here? How many cymbals of yours do I have?
I just kind of threw a bunch in there. Offhand, I would say about the 18s, probably like 5 or 6 or something like that.
I think there's 5. I thought there were 6, but there's only 5.
Oh.
I didn't take one, I swear to God.
Oh, sure, okay.
And then anyway, so you have 2 pair of 15-inch hi-hats. These are all white label, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And
all, yeah, pre-serial.
And then I have the 24-inch and then 2 20s.
Right, 220s.
There's also a 16-inch 505 crash in the bag.
That was just kind of put in there as sort of a stocking stuffer for you.
Oh, man, not to keep, though.
Yes.
You're really giving me that cymbal?
Yes, I am.
Oh, my God. Now I feel compelled to give you something back, which I will. I will give you something I have here. But listen, so you are the man. Bob is very kind. All right, so here's the deal. So, Bob, when did you and I first meet, and what did you buy for me?
Oh, geez. Ancient history. Let's see. I think it was you sold me my very first black label 2002. I think it was a regular crash or a medium. I'm not really sure, but it was something, you know, I think it was a regular crash. And it was that kind of began our exploitation.
Yes, our exploring giant beatberg. All right, so listen, here's the plan, Stan. So what I'm going to do is I'm not really going to play him now because I don't have it set up now to play because if I hit these cymbals, it'll be really loud. So
right.
Now, from your experience, what is the thinnest gram-wise 18-inch you've ever come across?
Probably around 1330, I think.
No.
1330.
1330 18-inch giant beat?
Yep, yeah, it's maybe a little more, maybe 13.
And wait,
actually, maybe around 1350.
Now was it a white label or a black label?
Black label.
Okay, so like post 1970, 71.
Right, I think it was a 70, 3.
Okay, now forgive me for steamrolling over you, Ever. Just that I want to keep. I think we can get longer than 20 minutes. I'll just start the camera up again. But all right, so a 13, let's say 14. I'm sorry, 1340 gram 18. And what's the heaviest you've ever stumbled across?
The one currently in front of you there, and I believe it went back and forth on my digital scale between 1548 and 1550.
Okay.
You know, depending on, like, I would pick it up, put it back down, and it's like basically 1550.
So 15. Okay, for some reason I thought there was like a 1580. It would be nice to stumble on a 1580.
That would be rarer than a hen's tooth, because I've never ran across anything that heavy. But I'm sure there's a few of them out there.
Well, what's the weight of the one I sold you a few years ago that looked kind of like the best and sounded great?
That was 15, I believe 1518 or 1520, like right there.
Well, who loves you, baby? You still got that guy?
Oh yeah. It's sitting in the on the shrine.
All right, now here's the deal. So, in 20 land, what's the thinnest 20 and the heaviest 20 you've ever stumbled upon?
Okay, thinnest 20 that I've ever had probably is the one right there, the lighter, because I wanted to give 2 sort of extreme examples of what at least I've come across, and I kept it because it actually had a John's Denmore-y, Dorsey kind of jazzy sound, and you know, so and that's it. I think it's, oh my goodness, I'm totally blanking out here, but it's something, I think it's got to be a little bit under 1900. 18, maybe, or maybe like 1905. Yeah, hopefully you'll weigh it and you'll be able to kind of figure that out.
I will. Hang on. I did weigh them. I did weigh them, and I actually got on my scale, and I double checked it. I calibrated. I got 1858. And then I also have here a 1990, so like 132 gram differential. Have you ever seen a 20-inch giant beat in the 2,000 gram range?
Yeah. One I have is
above?
About 2010.
Okay, 2010.
And I got that from Frank, you know, our mutual buddy.
Yes, Frank. We love Frank.
Our Beatles guy.
He's the man.
And that one was, I think it's like 2010, but it sounds and feels more like 2100. The thing with giant beats is you go up just a little bit in weight, you get way more of a projection and like this huge sort of a big sound, where other cymbals, you have to really go up super heavy to get the same sort of like projection.
So a slightly heavier weight increase seems to have more of a exponential increase on the brightness and the volume of the sound versus, let's say, other Paiste lines, even Zildjians and everything else.
Wow, yes, Professor. I mean, that's a perfect textbook scientific definition. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. All right, so what I have on here is I wanted to demonstrate is I have an 18-inch. The one up I have here is a 1540, and then the thinnest one in the bunch is this 1476.
That's probably the one with the label. It looks pretty decent. I think I know which one that is. My digital scale is a little different than yours. I got a little bit heavier weights. Okay. Like the 15 one that you said 1540. My scale shows like 1548. So we're close. I mean, that's 10 grams either way is pretty darn close.
Well, you know what the neat thing about this is, even though these cymbals are like, what I say it was, son of a buck, you know, this is what I got for getting old, Bob. I said 1540 versus 1476, so that's about 64 grams. But, you know, they sound almost identical pitch and tone-wise.
You know...
Maybe not volume-wise. Hang on a second. Hang on. Give me 1 second. Well, not identical, but they sound surprisingly, bizarrely closer kind of in pitch to me, not projection-wise, but than they otherwise would.
Yeah, well, I've been playing with those for a while, going back and forth with them, so I kind of hear the nuances. But the interesting thing is, like, the heaviest one out of the bunch, there's the one that I kind of favor. It's a little, just a couple grams lighter, where you can barely see the Giant Beat label, but it's there. I've had that for quite a long time. Now, that one opens up a great deal more. Now, there's maybe a 10-gram difference between the two, but this is a classic example of how inconsistent. I mean, even though Paistes are way more consistent on average than like the vintage Zildjians,
right?
This is an example how you can have almost two cymbals identical weights, and they look the same, but look at listen to how that one, just slightly lighter, opens up way more and is not as muted sounding. So that maybe you can show a little later.
Hang on, stand by. Versus.
One has a bit of a darker, kind of a subdued, kind of a quieter thing going on. It does shimmer and kind of open up.
Listen, I'm going to stop the camera and then start it back up so we get more time. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
This video brought to you by Terry Keating Greatest Hits. Look for it on eBay.
All right, we're back after this commercial break with Bob Marzalek, Paiste Bob. All right, Bob.
Yep.
Okay, so in the 24 department, what's the thinnest 24 you've ever stumbled across? Original Giant Beat.
Yeah, it would have to be like literally right around 28. I think it was 28.20.
That's the heaviest.
Lightest.
Oh, I'm sorry, lightest. I'm a skull.
Right.
Okay, and then what's the heaviest?
Heaviest, probably the one the very first one I ever ran into, and the one I pretty much have held on to, and which is 3,040 grams.
3,040 grams. Okay,
and that's really heavy for one of those. I mean, it's extremely for a pre-serial.
Right, I see.
Really,
but that's the thing too, which is kind of neat. You know what the Giant Beats is? The original Giant Beats, the weight varied a lot more than, from my experience, in any other Paiste line or type. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't have like a 300 gram. What was your lightest of the 24s?
18.
No,
probably around. I think 1830.
No, the 24s.
Oh, 24s, right. 18. I'm sorry, 2830, and that was also, interestingly, a serialized one from 1973.
Okay, so about 200 grams.
Counterintuitive, you would think they would get heavier, but there were a lot of black label Giant Beats that were
a lot lighter later. Now, okay, so like I've been telling Paiste in my videos, if anybody's ever been watching, or when I had that brief bromance with Eric Paiste, God love him.
Right.
I think Paiste would do really well to make, you know how they call the regular ones now, they have multis and then they have thins. If they had one in each size and everything slightly heavier than the multi. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's been my only, not that I'm criticized, because I think the Giant Beat cymbals are probably the best sounding cymbals made on a planet right now. To just walk in the store.
Oh, the reissues. Yeah, the reissues are, I think,
that compares to
the reissues definitely are. I remember when they first came out, I was telling people in the videos that a lot of jazz guys should check them out. And indeed, I found out later a lot of jazz guys did check them out because they behave in the near field a lot more like a B20 alloy cymbal, and then also still maintain the far field brightness and darkness and sound and everything. They truly are, I think, the best example.
The shimmer is beautiful. It's breathtaking.
All right, now the hi-hats. Now, we don't have to really so much go in on the weights of the hi-hats, but now, how many pairs of 15-inch of Giant Beats have you stumbled across? Originals?
Probably about a dozen.
Okay, and how many of those were black label?
I've never had a black label pair.
Oh, okay. Now you've stumbled upon a pair of 14-inch original hats too, right? Didn't you have a pair of white label 14-inch giant beats briefly?
Yes, yeah, right. I did, but I wasn't crazy about them. I just think the 15s are for giant beats. The 14s just didn't compare to the 15s.
Yeah, they were a little boxy sounding, probably, right?
Yeah. What's that?
They were sort of a little probably boxy sounding.
Yeah, that just
like airlocky.
Just didn't have much body to them, and the 15s are definitely the money shot of the two.
They are the gold standard. Okay, now what is the latest serial number you know of a Black Label original series giant beat? Remember, because they went to the Black Label about 71ish.
Right.
So
right.
what?
I never had it in my grasp, but I saw a picture of one from 77, which kind of freaked me out.
77.
Somebody posted it years ago. I wish I would have kept the picture, but on the internet years ago, I just wasn't that savvy, and I'm like, wow. And it was just a Black Label. It actually was, I think, a hi-hat. It was just a top hi-hat or something.
I see. Okay, a top hi-hat. Right. Because I've seen like pictures of like 73, 74, 75. Anyway, it's wonderful that Paiste brought him back. I got to tell you, it was.
It's amazing. My only thing would be what happened to, like, remember? Did I leave it in the? Did I drop that one off? I got the very first one available at the Chicago Drum Show.
Yes. Remember, I called you. Didn't I call you and say, Bob, you got to get your ass out here to the drum show?
I thought I brought it. Yeah, I thought I brought it there. Is that you should have it, because I wanted to show, like, sort of ABM, and it's just magnificent. And I bought a whole set, but I basically sold every other one except that, and I kept the pair of hi-hats for a long, long time.
Yeah, those were beautiful. Because I remember I saw them at the show. They had the set, the 14s, 15s, 18, 20, and I think didn't I call you and say, Bob, you got to come out here, and you raced right out there and bought them?
Yeah, bought the whole set, and and they were great. And then, I mean, in and of themselves, they're perfect. I mean, but if you're like stuck in the time warp like we are, where you want to recreate the whole bottom thing, and you kind of got to get the weights right. Yeah. Because you can't make an 18-inch crash that's 1,300 and like 20 grams sound like one that's 15, 20.
Yeah, right.
It's impossible. But it'll sound great, but it won't have the pitch and the presence. And so that was my only issue. It's like, okay, and then on top of that, salivating and anticipating, well, they're going to come. They got to come up with some heavier ones. Then they actually made them even thinner, which kind of baffled me.
Well, yeah, the thin, it baffled me a little too. The thin. I mean, I would say, like, I think, it'd be nice if they had a 20-inch giant beat reissue, at least in, like, the 2000. You know what I mean? Because I think the reissues are back in the 18.
2000 is perfect. To me, that's the ultimate weight for a 20-inch giant beat is and with the 18, 1500 is fine.
Yeah.
And maybe,
on the high end.
Make 15, call it a medium, and then do a one at 15, like 40 or 1550, and call it a heavy, because basically it is a heavier one. It's one that would have been heavier in a vintage time period.
In the day.
So, and believe me, there'd be guys scarfing them up. I mean, all the bottom people would hear it at Guitar Center and go, "What the heck?" Because it would project and have a lot more. It would cut through. See, the problem is, with the thin ones, they sound great if you're just doodling by yourself. The minute
in the near field,
stack, it disappears.
Well, here's the deal. I do know a lot of people. Oftentimes, their reservations about getting giant beats, even the multis, are some of the models, is that they might not cut so much. So, and also too, I've been begging Paiste and Eric Paiste to make a pair of 15-inch Sound Edge giant beat hats reissue. But also too, it's funny, like we're talking about like Nick Mason with his giant beats. He very much really liked to ride on like 18s off and 20s, and you and I were talking about how the I know this is so like cymbal gear geekery, but sue us. But yeah, I like that thing that Marcel Vogelman got from Paiste. I should say probably one of the lists of the cymbals he got, because it certainly isn't complete. But one of the 18s did in parentheses say heavy.
Yeah,
which was nice.
Which indicates that, you know, Bottom wanted a little variation between, like, because if you check historically, sometimes he would have 2 18s on stage, not so much later on, but in the early 70s.
Yeah, like to his left usually.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, so that's the giant beat scene. So what I want to do is I just wanted to get you to call in so people didn't think you were a figment of my imagination.
No, I'd be there in person, but I'm just going just crazy with my job and family stuff. So I appreciate you.
Well,
you know,
listen, we'll get George out here, and you in person. We'll sit right here. We'll set a couple chairs up. I just wanted to get the ball.
You know, at some point, I'd like to bring over 2002s, the vintage ones. And
yeah, the
we
black
can really
label.
get deep in the woods.
Oh yeah.
With it and do a real good A/B.
Well, you know, it's funny. You stumbled upon quite a few of the made in Germany black label 2002s.
Oh yeah.
And I love the different numbering. You know, when you look under the bell, like where it says like 1820, the numbers are different on the German ones. They look different. They have like a weird strident look about them.
Right. Well, the font, the ink stamp.
Yes, the
under
font.
The bell for the designating the size was different. It was like one of those old Otis elevators from 1909, like that kind of font with the old.
Oh yeah.
Like, Art Deco letters, which is kind of cool, but it really jumps out at you when you first see it. It's like, how come that's different? And then Germany just had a different ink stamp, and that's a good way to tell the difference.
Wait, real fast, because we got to go in a minute here. My camera's going to run out of juice. You said you in the bag there's not any reissue giant beats.
No, I thought I brought the 18, the very first one of the very first ones to that place re-released.
Oh, see that's why I think you thought there were 6 cymbals on there, because the reissue, there's no reissues in the bag.
Oh shoot.
No, it's all right. It's no problem. We'll when you come with George, we'll take care of it.
And don't forget, I don't know if you remember, but I sold you the pair of hi-hats.
Yes, which I still have here in my stead.
You gotta show the world these hi-hats sometime.
I will. Maybe they're in the safe. They're in the vault of freak show.
But the interesting thing is, those, getting geeky again, those first ones, hi-hats that came out for some reason are lighter than the later ones. So that's another interesting point. And they changed the color.
Wait, you said they're wider, you said?
They're lighter, like they weigh less.
Yeah, the original,
you have in your possession is considerably lighter than the newer giant beat hats that you can go on Guitar Center and buy right now. I
see. All right, well, listen, let's do this. Let's haul ass, because this camera's about to run out of juice. Bob, so what I'm going to do is let me just hang up with you, and I'll call you back later.
Okay, I hope everybody enjoys the presentation.
All right, brother. I'll see you, brother. Bye. That's my main man, Bob. He's a good man. He truly is. My phone's ringing again. I'm going to run, get that. More videos on the way. Please subscribe if you haven't. George and Bob will be here in the next week. We'll line it up. Thank you for watching.